you guys? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm basically going to give you a list of things to do in Seattle. I am going to categorize them in 3 different categories. First, I'm going to do like a touristy recommendations. I feel like this is going to be for the people who have never been here and like kind of like the must-do things at least your first time. And then I'm going to be doing local recommendations, which is kind of subjective. Like some of these can fall in the touristy category as well. But I feel like these are kind of things like if you didn't get to do them your first time, then you should do them the second time, or you know. And then the last category is going to be if you are visiting for a fair amount of time and you want to get outside of the city. I'll give you a couple more recommendations for things that are a little bit farther away. So let's start with the touristy recommendations. So first up on my list I feel like is obvious, and that is going to be Pikes Place Market. You definitely have to visit Pikes your first time here. It does get very crowded, so if you don't like crowds, I would suggest trying to go at an earlier time or like on a weekday if you have that option, but you have to go your first time because it's Pikes Place. So next on my list is the Ferris wheel. This is definitely like a one and done thing in my opinion. That was actually, fun fact, me and Austin's first date. But it's a fun thing to do. You go like over the water, which can be kind of scary, but also super cool. And it's pretty much like a view that you're not gonna get otherwise because you're literally, I don't know, super high in the air. And if you like Ferris wheels, you'll definitely like it. Next up on my list is the gum wall, and I don't know if you've heard about the gum wall or you've seen pictures. It's as gross as it sounds. It's super gross, but like where else can you say that you've seen an alleyway full of gum? I've even seen people do like promposals and stuff there with gum, which is super interesting. But it's a cool little quirky place that you probably won't see otherwise, and I definitely think it's worth checking out at least once. Next up is the Aquarium. I personally love the Aquarium. I know that those kinds of things aren't for everybody, but I personally really like them. It is on the smaller side as aquariums go, but I think it's fun and worth checking out. I love that whole waterfront area. There's plenty of things to do. It's right next to the Ferris wheel, so if you are gonna hit the Ferris wheel, you might as well hit the Aquarium as well. And also in the area is gonna be the next thing on my list, which is the Argosy boat tours. And those are actually on the Seattle City Pass. Side note, I think that is totally worth it if you're looking into it. I think it's like definitely worth the money, and it's a good way to be able to like see all of the touristy things and then still like get a discount on it because you were gonna do it anyways. But yeah, I would say if you're thinking about it, do it. But it's basically just this boat that takes you around, I believe it's the Puget Sound, and it takes you up next to like the freight and all of that stuff that you don't really get to see up close otherwise, and just kind of like does a circle around. They do give you kind of like history and things like that on the way, but it's a cool way to just be on a boat and kind of get to know a little bit of the backstory of Seattle. Next up, you can take a food tour. I'm sure there's more than one. I personally have not done this, but it looks like a super cool time, and also that way you don't really have to like think about it. They do the thinking for you. I'll put some links down below of like certain food tours, and just like anything on my list that has a link, I will try to put that down below. Also, speaking of food, I'm not really gonna add any like restaurants and things like that in this video because I am gonna make a separate video on that, so stay tuned. Next up is the Art Museum, and this is located really close to Pikes Place, so if you're in the area and you like art museums, it's definitely worth checking out. We got to go a couple of years ago for the Yayoi Kusama exhibit, and it was such a cool experience. I definitely recommend if there's usually rotating exhibits, so if that's something that you like, I definitely think it's worth checking out. I think museums are super cool, but I know it's not everybody's thing. Next up is Kerry Park. Now, Kerry Park is gonna be one of your best views of the city in all of Seattle, honestly. If you've seen 10 Things I Hate About You, I believe it is the opening scene is at Kerry Park, and it's just like the closest view that you're gonna get of like the whole skyline. It's beautiful. Highly, highly recommend making time to check that out. Next up is another must-do, at least your first time visiting Seattle, and that is the Space Needle. The Space Needle is basically one of the biggest monuments in Seattle. It's 605 feet tall and has 360 views of the entire city. It's beautiful. It's actually newly renovated, so instead of having the wiring that it had before, if you have previously seen it, it is all windows now, so it is beautiful. With the renovations, they did take out the restaurant. There was a restaurant below the viewing deck, but they took that out and now you can go downstairs and you can actually see like below you because the floor is glass. And if you don't like heights, I wouldn't recommend going downstairs, but you can stay up on the viewing deck where you can't see the ground, but it is really cool. And it also rotates. The bottom floor that you can see under rotates. So you can literally just stand there and you'll just like slowly see the whole view of Seattle. I definitely recommend going for sunset, but it does get crowded, so keep that in mind. And in the same area while you're there, I believe all of these are also on the Seattle City Pass, but you should definitely also check out the Chihuly Museum, the Mopop Museum, the Seattle Center, everything that's just kind of in that area. They're all worth checking out. The Chihuly Museum is super cool. It's all glass. It's beautiful. Highly recommend. And then the Mopop Museum is super cool as well. It's definitely more like, they have like the music section. They even have like a gaming section, and then they have like movies and all of that stuff. It's super cool and I highly recommend going there as well. So next up on my list is the Fremont Troll. The Fremont Troll was set there in 1989 as a part of a competition with the Art Council, basically to rehabilitate that area under the bridge because it used to be like a lot of drug activity, but thus came the Fremont Troll. It's really creepy, to be quite honest, in my opinion, but I think it's super cool just to look at. There is like an actual like beetle car in his hand. It doesn't even look real, but it's real. And it's just a cool little thing, sculpture. I mean, it's not little, it's huge, but I definitely think if you're in the area, why not stop by the Troll, just say hi, take some pictures. It's cool. So then if you're at the Troll, you might as well make your way down to Gasworks Park. In my opinion, Gasworks Park is the second best view after Kerry Park, and you basically get to see the entire skyline. You get to see a little bit of the Space Needle from there. Most of it is covered. But you do get a beautiful view and you get to see all of Lake Union in front of it. So it's really nice. And you get to watch all the boats. It's definitely like the perfect place in summer just to go and hang out, have a picnic. There's plenty of room. There's like good vibes because there's always a lot of people there, but like never too many people. Unless it's 4th of July, then it's packed, but that's also a good time. I personally am someone who, if I go somewhere, I want to see like the views. And if you're the same way, that is a great place, as well as Kerry Park. You're gonna get a great view. So moving on, the next thing on my list is the Woodland Park Zoo. This is gonna be located a little bit up north. It is like the Finney Ridge Woodland Park area. And this is gonna be a cute and quaint little zoo. It is pretty small for most zoos that I have been to, but it is still fun. It still has all the animals. And they do also during the winter, if you come like during around Christmas time, they do have a zoo lights thing. So it's all lit up and it's super fun. So now that I've given you some spots up north, let's go down south. So these last items on my touristy recommendations are all gonna be in the Soto area. And the first one on my list is the Smith Tower. So the Smith Tower is actually Seattle's oldest skyscraper, and you can go up. There is a viewing deck, and then there's also like a little bar inside and things like that, but it's super cool. And with that area of Pioneer Square as a whole, there's a ton of history that comes with it. There's a lot of old buildings and things like that, which also brings me to my next thing on my list, which is the Seattle Underground Tour. So I'm not gonna give you like the whole backstory on Seattle because if you take the tour, you will find out. But basically, in 1889, Seattle as a city burnt down and then was just like rebuilt on top of it. So it gives you this super cool opportunity because there are still tunnels that go underground and you get to go and see. And there's even like these little glass, like, I don't know what to call them, but they're like embedded in the pavement. So if you're underground, you can see people walking above you, which is such a weird experience, but it's a really cool tour. And the people that run it are actually really funny. So I definitely recommend if you really like history and things like that, and you just want to know more about Seattle. And then with that, I don't think it's the same company, but kind of a similar sort of tour, but more like spooky. If you're into spooky things, there is a ghost tour. So that basically gives you like the backstory of Seattle and, but like creepy. It basically, like they'll take you to certain places that are known to be haunted. And they even showed like, what did he show us? It was like, EMT, is that what it's called? No. It basically is like recording of like voices that he's caught while on this tour. So if you are scared of that kind of stuff, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but if you aren't and you're into it, definitely recommend. Like I said, Pioneer Square has a lot of history. So this next one is a little bit more in Financial District, but it is more on the south side, and that is going to be the Columbia Tower. And you do need tickets to go up the Columbia Tower, but it is one of the tallest buildings in Seattle, so you get this crazy view. I believe it's, I don't think it's 360, but you get a really good view of like pretty much everything you want to see, like the water in the city, and it's super pretty. There used to be a Starbucks in there. I'm not sure if it's still there, but you could just go up that for free, but it's not as high, so you don't get the same view. But another one of those view things if you're into that. And then lastly, on my list of touristy recommendations, I would say go to a sports game. If you have time and there's something going on in terms of sports, you should go. They're all such a good time. Like Seahawks, I know those tickets are a little bit harder to come by. They're a little bit more expensive. But if you want to go to a very cheap sports game, go to a Mariners game. Even if you don't like football, it is such a good time, and like just like the environment is so fun to be in. And the tickets can be anywhere from like $12 to $20. Like they're really cheap. So it's definitely worth going to. But if you can also score like Sounders tickets or Seahawks tickets, that's also super cool. And then coming soon, Kraken tickets, which I myself am trying to get tickets to go to. So let's move on to the local recommendations. Like I said before, some of these can be categorized as touristy things as well, but in my opinion, I don't think that they're like the first things to come to mind when you think about coming to Seattle. So first on my list is gonna be Sculpture Park. Sculpture Park is basically like along the waterfront, so if you are at like the aquarium area, all of that, you just keep going north and you will be along the water, which is Sculpture Park. It's a really nice park. It's perfect for like biking or like scootering or walking, and I don't feel like it gets too busy, so you can definitely guarantee on that. And then there is like a little like beachy area. It's really small, but you can get right down into the water, and if you have dogs, the dogs love it. There's lots of dogs over there. But I think it's the perfect spot if you just want like a chill, nice little walk. You get a great view of the ocean, so that is my first on the list. Next on my list is take a water taxi to Alki Beach. I actually did this for the first time for filming this video, so I was actually kind of excited to be able to do it. But the water taxi is basically a much quicker commute than like the ferry or something like that. I believe it only took like 15 minutes, and it takes you across the water to West Seattle and to Alki Beach, and there's a lot of cool stuff over there. We went to Marination, which is like one of my favorite spots to go over there, and it is just right off the dock from the taxi. It's just a super quick way to get to the other side of the city. If you do want to check out Alki, I definitely recommend, especially in summertime. It is probably going to be like the closest thing that you would get to a beach here, besides my next thing on the list, which is Golden Gardens. So Golden Gardens, like I said, is gonna be also the closest thing that you get to a beach here. It's definitely not a California beach. The water is not warm. Unless it's super hot out, I don't recommend swimming in it because it's super cold. But it is just like, it's fun. You feel like you're on a beach, but you're in Seattle. And also, it's super pretty because when do you get to be on a beach where you have a mountain view behind you? Probably not that often. So if you're looking for something like beach-wise and you don't want to go all the way to the Olympics, which is also on my list, I would suggest going to Alki Beach or Golden Gardens. Next on my list is to paddleboard or kayak on Lake Union. I will say, in summertime especially, Lake Union can get a little bit busy, so if you're not super comfortable kayaking and paddleboarding around like larger boats, you shouldn't have a problem, but if that intimidates you, I would also suggest trying Green Lake. It's a lot less stuff going on. There's no boats, or at least not, I don't think there's boats. I don't think there's boats allowed, but there is no like crazy waves or anything like that. So if Lake Union intimidates you, definitely go to Green Lake. But I think paddleboarding and kayaking is such a fun thing to do, especially in the summertime. So if you have the time, definitely try it out. Also on Lake Union, this one is a little bit harder to come by. You definitely have to plan ahead, and it's a little bit on the spendier side, but if you get the chance, definitely take a hot tub boat. It's basically exactly what it sounds like. It is a boat, but with like a section of it cut out just to have a hot tub in it. It is such a cool experience. I've never been able to do anything like that before now, and it was totally worth the money. So if you get the opportunity, definitely take a hot tub boat. Next on my list, I just made a short about this, but it is to go to the Selfie Museum. I feel like not that many people know about the Selfie Museum. It is within, like if you were at the gum wall, you just go straight down and it is located there. But I feel like it's a little bit like off of the path, so not as many people know it's there. But it is such a cool little place, and if you like Instagram and you like to make your Instagram all aesthetic, it's perfect for that. It's honestly just a super fun time. I went with my friend and like we were basically just laughing the whole time. Like it was just so fun. And if you can go like on a weekday or earlier, you can get most of it to yourself, or at least we did, and that was super fun. Next on my list is another one of those view things, but I feel like this one is a lot less known, so it doesn't get as crowded as the other ones, and that is to go to Pier 66. Since Pier 66 is on the waterfront, you get like an amazing view of the ocean as well as the city behind you. And now that the viaduct is not there anymore, it's a lot less obstructed, and it's just like a really nice view of the city if that's what you're into. It's super easy to get to, and you don't have to pay for it, it's free. So definitely check it out. That is where the cruise boats like dock. So sometimes it might be obstructed, at least if you want to see the water part. There is like huge cruises, but they're not always there. Next on my list is take a ferry to Bainbridge. I think Bainbridge is super cute, it's super quaint. You can do it in a day, and it's fun to even get on the ferry just to get on the ferry. But you can just go over there, walk around, see the shops, get some food, get some drinks. It's the perfect little like day trip if you didn't know what else to do. And last on my local recommendations, this isn't necessarily like just a Seattle thing, but I don't really know where else they have them, but that is go to a cat cafe. We have more than one here, and they're super fun. If you love cats, you get to like have some coffee. One of them even has beer, I believe, and you just get to play with some cats for an hour. It's a fun experience, and I think it's like a super fun little thing to do if you have extra time. Speaking of extra time, I'm gonna get to my last category, which is if you have extra time. With all these things, you will need a car or some form of transportation, so keep that in mind. But the first thing on my list is to visit Rainier. You will get to see Rainier from most parts of the city if it's a clear day, but being able to see it like in front of you, it is massive. It is so big, it's beautiful. You can even drive up to a certain part where you get to just like, I can't even explain it until you're there. Like it's huge, and it's just like such a sight to see. So if you have the opportunity and some extra time, definitely get out to Mount Rainier. Next up is visit the Olympic National Park. It is huge, so you have plenty of things to do, but you can just ferry up to the peninsula and you'll be able to drive around. You can see things like the Hoh National Rainforest and all of the beaches that are out there. There's so much to explore, especially if you love the outdoors. It's so worth going, and you can even camp in a couple spots if you want to stay overnight, but it is definitely worth doing if you love the outdoors. So next on my list is visit Leavenworth. Leavenworth is basically like this cute little Bavarian town. If you've seen one of my older vlogs, we did go over there for Austin's birthday, and it's just like a super small, like cute little town that's within the mountains. It's super fun to go and like drink beer if you like beer. You definitely will like to go out there. I've heard it's beautiful in the winter time. I have yet to go, but that, and then also they do have Oktoberfest. Usually, I think it's canceled this year, but they usually have Oktoberfest, and I've heard that is such a good time. If you have the opportunity, go out to Leavenworth. There's some hikes out there as well, so there's plenty to do. Next one is for all you wine lovers. If you love wine and wine tasting, definitely go out to Woodinville. It is basically like, I mean, it's definitely not like the Napa of Washington, because that's Walla Walla, but it has just a large amount of wineries all scattered within the same area, so you can kind of just like hop from one another, and it's a fun little day thing to do. Next up is Snoqualmie Falls. This one isn't too far out of the city. You definitely still need to like get there, but it's basically just this huge, beautiful waterfall that you get to see from a viewpoint. There's also like a hotel and a restaurant next door, and there is like a big hill that you can walk down right down to the water and see it from that view as well. But it's definitely a beautiful scenery if you want to get something not super far out from Seattle. I can also make like a hike list if you want that as well, so let me know. And last to end this whole list is go to the San Juan Islands. This is probably, I guess it would probably be just as far as the Olympic National Park, but it is beautiful. You do have to take a ferry to get there because it is islands, but they are definitely worth seeing. I've seen some of the best sunsets I've ever seen out there, and there's a lot of like cool wildlife. I also saw like a fox there for the first time ever, but totally worth going. There isn't like the most things to do out there, but if you like camping, highly recommend going out there. There is also whale watching, so if you want to do some whale watching, you can do that out there. Just make sure you do it within like the time frame, because I believe the season is over in like September. We tried to go, didn't see anything. It was just a very cold boat ride, but I have heard that a lot of people get to see them out there. So if that's something that you want to do, definitely go to the San Juans. So that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you got some recommendations out of this, and if you try any of them out, let me know how you like them. And then also stay tuned. Like I said, I do want to put out a like restaurants and food video. I am just like getting my arsenal of videos ready for that. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!